how do we bear suffering? How do we go through life, its ups and downs, its vicissitudes, with serenity? On what basis? Where does one stand? What is permanent? What is real? What will not betray us? This is the answer. In this context, Krishna teaches this 16th verse of the 2nd chapter. There is a reality which never disappears. In contrast to that, everything else in the world is unreal, really never comes into existence. These two should be understood. Simple enough to sound, it sounds very cool, but when we actually investigate it, the depths are profound. And Shankaracharya writes 1, 2, 3 pages of closely written, dense commentary in Sanskrit, which I intend to take us through in today's class, in this talk. Before we go into it, what is going to happen from now till the end of this session is one thought. Ourselves, you as pure existence. It's just that one truth, and we will try to understand it. So because it's sustained in a single thought, it's like one single argument. We must understand it and we must see it, actually learn to look at it and see that yes, it is so. And how it helps us, we'll see towards the end and in the next talk tomorrow in the morning. But first of all, this is the core of the entire retreat. So please follow carefully, attend. I will introduce the central thinking of the verse, and then we will go into the commentary. I will read from the original Sanskrit. Don't worry about the Sanskrit. Even if you don't understand one word of Sanskrit, it's more for my ease of thinking. I'm using it as a support. And for you, it's nice to listen to the sound of the original Sanskrit. All you need to know is the simple English which will follow after the Sanskrit. All right. So now let's take up two concepts. First, effects and causes. You see, for example, this table, this lectern is made of wood. Now, one way of speaking about it is, I just said the lectern is made of wood. A more philosophical way of speaking about it would be, the lectern is an effect of which the wood is the material cause. Wood is, basically what I'm saying is, the wood is the material out of which this lectern is made. Now the point to be understood here is that the lectern has no existence apart from the wood. If you took all the wood out of this, it would disappear. All the waves in the ocean just there, the Pacific there on the waterfront there, all the waves, they are effects whose cause is, material cause is water. It's basically water which is appearing as the waves. Now, so just keep this in mind, effect and cause. One kind of cause is a material cause, the substance out of which the effect is made. And the effect has no existence apart from its material. So if it's just made of wood, this lectern has no existence apart from the wood. If a gold ornament is just made of gold, the ornament has no existence apart from the constituent gold. And the waves in the ocean, they're all made of water. So though they look different and they do different things. A tsunami wave does one thing, a surf on the top of the wave does something else, and so on. But they're all made of water, and they have no existence apart from the water which constitutes the waves. So the effects have no existence apart from the constituting material. Now, based on this, I would like to make an interesting point. Things have essential or intrinsic properties and incidental or accidental properties. Properties which are sometimes there, sometimes not there. Those are incidental, extrinsic, accidental. And there is something that is essential to it, which is there, which the thing retains as long as the thing exists. That may sound very vague. A simple example will make matters clear. Suppose you are boiling a potato. You're boiling a potato. And to the touch, the potato will appear to be a hot potato, because it's being boiled. But if I ask you the heat of the potato, is it intrinsic to the potato? Is it always a hot potato? No, it's not. It was in refrigerator, it was very cold. Now, because it's in the boiling water, it's hot. Where did it get its heat from? The heat does not belong to it. It was not there earlier, it came. That heat has been borrowed by the potato, so to speak, from the boiling water. Right? So the heat is not intrinsic or essential to the potato. It's a borrowed property, an accidental, incidental, borrowed, let's use the word borrowed property. The sign of a borrowed property is it comes and goes. Just like borrowed money. Somebody said, Swami, today you cannot make out who's rich and who's not rich. They're all living on credit. So they may have all the fancy things, but they may not be very rich at all. So it's borrowed wealth. In the same way, a borrowed property, but one way you can trace that it's a borrowed property is at one time it was not there, and a time will come it may be lost. Just like borrowed wealth. It comes and it goes. That potato, it was not hot. Now it's hot. Later on when you serve it and keep it out on the dining table, it will again become cool after some time. Showing the heat was borrowed. From what? From the boiling water. Now is the water inherently hot? Is it borrowed or is it intrinsic to the water? It is borrowed because it was cool. But when you put it on the saucepan and you lit the stove, the electric range beneath it, it became hot. Now it started boiling. It will again become cool after some time. So it loses the heat. It gained the heat and it lost it. Where did it borrow it from? You'll say the saucepan. Is the saucepan intrinsically hot? No, it also got its heat from the stove where the fire was. So the fire lent its heat to the saucepan, and the saucepan lent its heat to the water, and the water to the potato. All of this, the potato, this water, and the saucepan have all borrowed heat from the fire. Now, is the fire intrinsically hot? Yes. As long as the fire lasts, common sense, as long as it lasts, it's hot. Heat is an intrinsic property of fire. Why? Because there's never a time when fire was cold, and there never will be a time when the fire will lose its heat. It was not that fire was cold and it borrowed heat from some time and now it's hot, again it will become cold after some time. No, as long as the fire remains, it will be hot. Showing thereby, heat is an intrinsic property, not a borrowed property of fire. I read in a newspaper once in Siberia that heavy snowstorms, and the plane got stuck, and the people had to come, and they actually asked the passengers to get down and push the plane. It was in the newspapers. And then finally they had to apply some kind of heat, and then it melted the thing. So the snow is terribly cold, but even in Siberia the fire was hot because it was able to melt the snow. So fire is intrinsic heat because it does not lose that heat, neither gains it. So what, you may ask? Now let me put this question to you. Use this example. Heat is the property, and the potato and the water and the saucepan and the fire are the things which have heat. Some of them have borrowed it, some of them have, the fire has it intrinsically. Suppose a thing has existence as its intrinsic property. Suppose a thing has existence itself, being. Suppose something has being as a borrowed property. What will happen to that thing? Remember, borrowed properties come and go. So if something has borrowed existence from something else, then what will happen to it? It will lose existence, it will lose the property. Whatever is borrowed is lost. If something loses existence, what will happen? It will perish, it will die, it will go out of existence. If something gains existence, what happens to it? It's born, it comes into existence, it's created. You say it's produced, it's created, it's born. So gaining existence means birth or creation or production. Losing existence means death or destruction or perishing. Anything which is born and it exists and it again dies has borrowed existence. It does not have existence of its own. And in fact, when you look around the world, everything is like that. Just about everything, including our own bodies, including our own thoughts. They come into being and then they disappear. They're born, they seem to exist for some time and then they disappear. You see? Think about anything here that is permanently there. No. Everything is born, exists and disappears. Showing thereby, in terms of the discussion we are having, all the things in this universe must have borrowed existence. Must have borrowed existence. In terms of cause and effect, which we just spoke about, they are all effects. Because effects borrow their existence from the cause. Just like the table has borrowed its existence from the wood, the water, the waves in the ocean have borrowed their existence from the constituting water. The ornaments made of gold have borrowed their existence from the gold. So causes borrow their existence from the effect. The effects borrow their existence from the cause. The effects borrow their existence from the cause. Because then you will see all the effects, they come into being, they seem to be, and then they disappear back again. The waves come into being, they seem to be, and then they disappear back again. Everything, all effects, they're born of their causes, they exist in their causes, and they disappear back into the cause. That bears repetition. All things are born from causes, exist in their causes, and disappear back into the causes. And we are allowed to speak like this because they derive existence from their causes. If something does not borrow existence, but inherently, intrinsically, by its very own nature, has existence, like fire has existence, fire has heat, inherently. If something has existence inherently, intrinsically, what will happen to it?
Disappear.
It will?
Always exist.
Yes, but it isn't?
It will get right.
Yes, it will always exist. It will always exist. It will never gain existence or lose existence. It will never come into existence by gaining existence. It will never die by losing existence because its inherent nature is existence. So make this difference. That's one point. The second point is again back to causes and effects. Think of a pot, a clay pot. When you examine a clay pot, when you see the top of it, you see it's clay. When you see the bottom of it, you see it's clay. When you see outside, it's clay. When you see inside, it's clay. In fact, in a clay pot, you will not find anything except clay. Is that true?
Yes.
Inside, outside, nothing except, if you weigh the clay pot, it's the weight. I mean, for practical purposes, you may ignore the weight of the water which went into making the clay and all that. But when you weigh the clay pot, it's the weight of the clay. When you touch the clay pot, it's the clay you are touching. So when I touch this, what do I say? Touch wood. I don't say touch lectern. Recognizing thereby all of it is just wood. All of this. The point I'm making here is the effect has no existence outside its cause. There is no pot other than the clay. There is no pot independent of the clay. When you look at a clay pot, it is not that there are two things, clay and pot. If you say there is clay and pot, I'll say, I'll take the clay, show me the pot. You cannot. There is no real second thing apart from the clay in a clay pot. In terms of our effects and causes, we say that the effect is not a real thing apart from the cause. Effect is not a real thing apart from the cause. Effect is not a second thing apart from the cause. You cannot count two things. In a clay pot, can you count? Here is one thing clay and here's another thing pot, 1 and 2. You cannot. You cannot. Once you count the clay, you have counted everything. Right? So the effect is not a second real thing apart from the cause. So we have made 2 points here. Effects have no inherent existence. Their existence depends on the cause. In Advaitic language, in the language of non-dualism, the cause is called real and the effect is called an appearance. The reality is the clay and the pot is an appearance thereof. Are you with me so far? It is the clay alone with a new shape and a name and a function which you call a pot. It is the water alone with a new shape and a name and a function which you call a wave, or surf, or bubbles, or a tsunami wave. Isn't that true? There are no two things there. Really speaking, it's water. Really speaking, this is wood. Really speaking, the ornament gold ornament which you're wearing is gold. Really speaking. When you say the word really speaking, because that's what you're counting. Without that, without the clay, no pot, you cannot count it. Without the wood, no lectern. That's one conclusion we come to. Without the cause, no effect. Effect is not a second thing apart from the cause. In Vedantic language, cause real, effect appearance. Another name for appearance, false. The Sanskrit name for false, mithya. The Sanskrit name for real, satyam. Effect, cause, satyam, effect, mithya. What they'll go on to prove is Brahma Satyam, Brahman or Sat alone is real and the world which is an effect of this, is an appearance of this Sat. I'll repeat, what we are going to show is the ultimate reality, the only reality is pure being, and everything else in this universe appears to exist. They are all effects of that pure being, apparent effects. They seem to exist, but apart from pure being, nothing does exist actually. That's what we'll try to prove. That's one point. And the second point is the effects always are, they born, they exist and they disappear. They do not have inherent existence. They keep disappearing. They keep coming into existence and disappearing. That which continuously exists is the ultimate cause, pure being, which continuously goes on because it has existence as its inherent nature. That may sound awfully abstract, but that's nothing compared to what's going to happen now. We have not even started with Shankaracharya. Now, with this background, we're going to start with Shankaracharya. Remember, the context is nothing very abstract. The context is, how do I withstand suffering in my life? How do I live my life, the ups and downs of life, with serenity and calmness? What will give me that peace, that strength? What is the permanence within me? Like that cancer patient asked, is there something within me which the cancer has not touched? Can I find something that the world cannot disturb or destroy? That's what we're trying to seek. Okay. Now, for the purposes of this talk, the entire thing that will follow, the Shankaracharya, we just go straight to the master. What he's going to say, I have condensed it into 7 points. Already you have the materials with which to work. You've already got the points. Now we'll just based on what we just said, we will go ahead. I'll read the Sanskrit, translate for you and discuss for a while and go on to the next point. He says, that is Shankaracharya, commenting on the 16th verse of the 2nd chapter. He says, Nahi shitoshnadi sakaranam pramanehi nirupyamanam vastu sambhavati. All the experiences of our life, cold and heat and success and failure and praise and insult and health and disease, none of these, when you examine them, can be taken as really existing. Why not? Why not? Keep in the background what I said about effects and causes. He says, Vikaro hisa, because they are all effects. You begin to see the link between what I was saying and what's happening now. He says they are all effects. We ask, what do you mean they are all effects? Vikara cha vibicharati yatha gatadi samsthanam chakshusha nirupyamanam mridyatirekena anupalabdhehe asat tatha sarvo vikara karana vyatirekena anupalabdhehe asant. He says here, all effects are subject to appearance and disappearance. Look at life. Just like he says, look at a pot, a clay pot, the example which we used. You cannot ascertain its existence apart from the constituent clay. He says, Chakshusha nirupyamanam, look at it, touch it. Whatever you are seeing, whatever you are touching, mridyatirekana, this is other than clay. What else is there? What else are you looking at? When you look at this, are you looking at a table or a lectern or the wood? It's a lectern. So you're not looking at the wood? What is your eye? The light is reflecting off something and coming to your eye. What is the light reflecting off, a lectern or the wood? The wood actually. Somebody might say, no, both. Lectern and the wood. Really, both? Can you show them separately? You cannot. Then why are you justified in using the word both? Literally, it's an illusion created by language and usage. That it's only wood here. Nothing else. Just not one little bit else. There is no thing called a table or lectern apart from the wood. Similarly, he says, if you examine a clay pot, there is nothing there except the clay. Mridyatirekena anupalabdhe. You do not see anything. You do not perceive anything there except the clay. And asat, he says, that is what I call false, an appearance. It's an illusion created by the name and the form, by language and our perception. It is a thing called a pot. You say, but Swami, there's a pot. I can show you a pot if you want. You can only show me the material out of which the pot is made. It looks like a pot, it talks like a pot and behaves like a pot and does pot-like things, but in a sense, it's only the material. It might be a brass pot or a clay pot. It's just a thing, the constituent material. So what? What do I have to do with clay and pots and so on? He says, Sarvo vikara karana vyatirekena anupalabdhe. Everything in this universe, what you experience, they are all effects, and they do not exist apart from their constituent causes. The Buddhists put it nicely. If I show you this, what is this? You will say it's a fist. But if I open this, where is the fist now? The Buddhist says the fist is nothing but a particular arrangement of the constituent fingers. Rearrange the fingers. I have not removed a single thing. The fist has disappeared. There is no such thing as a fist other than the fingers which you have arranged in a particular arrangement. He said, okay, so what? Even the fingers themselves, they are particular arrangements of cells and tissues. Right? Apart from that, there is no such thing as a finger. And the tissues themselves of cells, and cells themselves of subcellular structures, and so on. Therefore, nothing in the world is as it seems to be. They are all nothing apart from their constituent causes. There is no effect apart from the constituent cause. In Vedantic language, the cause is real, the effect is false. But every cause has its own cause also. Like the fist has its cause, the 5 fingers arranged in a particular way, but each finger also has its cause, the tissues inside, and the tissues have their cause too, the cells inside, and so on, down and down and down. Are we going to end up with nothing? Though the world appears, we'll see. So that's one point, the point which we have already made. Effects have no existence apart from the cause, and such a situation, you're calling the cause real, effect false. And everything in the world is an effect. False means in Sanskrit, mithya. So what they are saying is, Jagat mithya. The universe is an appearance. Why is the universe an appearance? Because everything that you take up in the universe is made of a cause, and apart from the cause, it's not there. You see, okay, the cause exists. No, that cause has its cause too. You see, this we're talking about this table, this lectern. You're saying the lectern has no existence apart from the wood. Okay? But the wood also has no existence apart from the earth element constituting it. The earth element has also no existence apart, if you believe in modern, if you are in modern physics, if you go down that way, the constituent atoms. The constituent atoms have no existence apart from the constituent subatomic particles. And down, even go further down, the quarks, the superstrings, further and further down. The higher structures have no existence apart from their underlying causes. This is what is meant by in Vedanta as Jagat Mithya. It seems to be a real thing, but when you examine it, it has no existence apart from its underlying cause. And the underlying cause has no existence from its underlying cause, and so on. One point. Second point, already we have done this. Janma pradhvangsabhyam prag urdhvam chanupalabdhe. None of these effects are available, are seen before their creation and after their destruction. Remember, borrowed existence means that it'll come into existence and it'll disappear out of existence. Borrowed heat, it becomes hot, then cools down. Borrowed wealth, become rich, and then you lose your wealth. Borrowed existence means it comes into existence and disappears out of existence. It's born and it dies. If it's born and it dies, it means they do not have intrinsic existence. Are you with me so far? Anything that has intrinsic existence will neither be born nor will it die. All things in the world are born and they die. Mountains and little ants and our own bodies, our thoughts and ideas and memories, everything comes into existence and disappears. Some in a fraction of a second, some in millions of years. Rabindranath Tagore, in one of his Gitanjali poems, he says, when a leaf drops away from a dry leaf drops from a tree and falls into a pond, it sets into motion ripples, faint ripples. It is the same ripples which are moving out among the stars and galaxies. The ripples of change and destruction, of death. So all things come to an end. Anything that begun, jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu. The Gita says, that which is born, death is certain of that. Death is certain of that which is born. In our philosophical discussion, what does it mean? It means then in that case, those things do not have intrinsic existence. They have only borrowed existence because they came into existence and they disappeared. And we see all of these effects, they're borrowed existence because they come into existence and they disappear. in which case they are, in our language, not real. They are appearances of some underlying reality. Second point. Now, doubt, this is the way Shankaracharya writes. He will pose a question which is already coming in our mind. When I talk about the fist being nothing but the fingers, and the fingers being nothing but the tissues, and the tissues being nothing but the cells being nothing but subcellular structures, and so on, down to, from biology to chemistry to physics and subnuclear physics, is the whole universe going to disappear into nothingness? Smaller and smaller and smaller into nothingness. Nothing that exists, and nothing that has in our language inherent existence, is all of it borrowed existence. But we know from economics and from everything else that everybody cannot borrow. There must be somebody who was the initial lender. Somewhere that you got the bank, it may be the federal bank or something. Somewhere, like fire is the one which lent its heat to the saucepan, to the water, to the potato. They all borrowed it, but it started with the fire. In the universe, does nothing have inherent existence? All things are nothing, just appearances? That's the question he asks. If everything has a cause, you're saying that which has a cause is not really there. Effects are not really there. Causes are real. But the causes also have their own cause. So in that case, there's an endless chain, and everything in the universe has no real existence. So it all disappears into blankness. That's the question. Mridadi karanasya tat karanasya cha tat karana vyatireken anupalabdhe asatvam dadasatve cha sarva-bhāvo prasanga hiche. He says, pot has no real existence. It's the clay which has existence. But the clay has no real existence. Its cause, the earth element, has existence. But the earth element has no real existence. Its cause has existence. And so on, if you go on and on and on, everything becomes an appearance. And then he says, Sarva-bhāvo. Then nothing really exists. Is that what you're trying to say? Now we go into the third point. Shankaracharya makes a very important distinction here. This is where he actually points out Brahman in our own existence. Right now, that you are experiencing Brahman. Let's see. He says, no, na, sarvatra buddhidvaya upalabdhehe, sadbuddhi asadbuddhi chet. Let me explain this. Every experience that we have, Shankaracharya makes a very important point here. Every experience we have of the world, everywhere, actually has two aspects. We look at only one aspect and we continuously miss the other aspect. But we are experiencing two aspects in every experience. What are the two aspects of every experience? Experience of name and form, experience of existence. Look at this. When I look out here, I see man exists. Woman is. The fan is. The house is. And when I look outside, the city is. The ocean is. And so on. Everything that we experience as existing, right? When you look at your neighbor, you don't only see a person, you see the person existing. It's so logical and it's so natural that we never even think about it. But Shankaracharya says, look at your experiences. All your experiences have a dual aspect. One is of a name and form, of something. And the other one is the existence of that something, is the being of that something. It's a very subtle point, but very simple also. Every experience, just look around. What happens to us is, we take this for granted, because it's sort of boring and it never changes. And this is interesting, it changes all the time. And so we look at this, and this becomes our life, samsara. What is your life? There are men and women, and there is money, and there are houses and cars, and there is happiness and misery, and there are things to do. All of this, samsara, this is samsara. But underlying all of that is this, is. Now he points out, this experience, man, woman, fan, house, city, ocean, whatever you are experiencing, this is subject to change. This is subject to change. Continuously changing. But the existence of these things never changes. if you consider it separately from the thing itself. There is a sense of being. Consider it this way. A mirror. If I hold up a mirror here, it will show me many things. It will show me the people and the chairs and the books there and this hall. And after some time it will show me the hall is empty and the people are gone and the chairs may be removed. All of that is appearing in the glass, which is the mirror. What is constant in all of this? The mirror itself, the glass itself. And in fact, I will say, in the mirror, the only reality is the mirror. Everything else is an appearance in that glass. In the same way, consider the isness, the pure being, to be the mirror in which the universe appears. So, sort of trying to wrap your mind around it. Vedanta is telling you, you are that isness. You are that isness. All of these, this entire universe has no independent existence apart from you, the pure isness. It is your being which is borrowed. Everything here, what you experience, has borrowed experience. Everything in the mirror has borrowed its experience in the mirror. I'm not talking about the things outside. I'm talking about the reflections in the mirror. Every reflection in the mirror has borrowed its existence from the mirror. Everything that you experience in the world, you experience as existing. And yet, where is this being? What is this being? Vedanta insists that it's you. You are the being from which is borrowed the existence of everything. You may have many questions. You're saying that, what do you mean? Suppose I die. Suppose I die. Everything else goes on existing. How can it borrow its existence from me? But then you immediately see the fallacy of this question. When I die, what do I mean when I die? When I die, the body dies. This particular body dies. I'm not saying that you are the body. I'm saying you are the being, the existence, very isness of this universe. So Shankaracharya points out here, Sarvatra dve buddhi sarve upalabhyete samanadhikarne. In every experience, everybody experiences two things. A changing object of experience and an unchanging isness. And Vedanta says that unchanging isness is your real nature.